Hi, everyone. Welcome back to my series, organizing my post-grad life after college, one day at a time, 1 week at a time. And if you're new to this series, I'm Carson. I just graduated from the University of Michigan with computer science, and I'm currently working as a software engineer. The purpose of this series is kind of just to keep me on track, to continue learning different skills and kind of progressing and not stagnating. I think that can very much happen when you are post-grad and you just start working. And I don't want to sit down one day and be like, oh, I worked my whole life and I didn't make anything of it. We are going to use Obsidian today, and this is just my way of keeping track of the notes. So the way I do it is I keep a weekly note where I will track things like habits, the goals, and the task I want to complete that week. Let's get started. And I really want you guys to join me and kind of do the same thing and take this as inspiration. So the first way that I start every single week is the goals I'm working towards this week. And these are kind of like big buckets: entrepreneurship, fitness, Spanish, screen time, connection. So these are kind of what emphasize that week. I explained in my last video, so I'm not going to go too in depth. I have habits. These are Spanish study, movement, not eating out, tretinoin, and hair. And if I scroll all the way down, we will see many of these habits I completed this week. I completed 8 out of 8. See, my template's already a little off. I studied Spanish 7 out of 7 of the days this week. I also moved 5 out of the 7 days this week. I didn't eat out. I only ate out once this week. I used tretinoin 3 times, and I only missed 1 day of putting my hair serums in. So I think this was a pretty good week for the tretinoin, the hair, the not eating out, and the Spanish. I always want to improve the movement, especially because this week I didn't do a lot of weightlifting, which I think is really important. It was more of just like casual things like cycling and pickleball, which were really fun. The main task that I had this week and that I kind of worked on completing. So the task I had, like the primary task, I wanted to eat lunch with my coworkers more, especially because I'm very introverted sometimes. I think just to push myself and eat with someone is a great way to know people. I wanted to start practicing my Spanish, and I did really well with this. I had 4 tutoring lessons this week, which I want to continue, but I'm going to drop down to 3 because I think 4 was a little bit too much Spanish for 1 week. I meal prepped last week, which was really good. However, I needed to apply for an apartment in Detroit or in Ann Arbor because that's where I want to live. However, I didn't get to that, and my apartment ends in 7 days. So I need everyone to pray for me with that. The things that I also did not complete is I did not post 3 forms of content. I wanted to start making more videos, just like general content videos. Could be short form, could be this. However, I didn't complete that. So we're going to continue to work on that. So this is kind of where the bulk of this video comes from, and is the reflection on the week. I think this is the most important part of making a plan for yourself. You can make a plan, but if you don't reflect on like the wins and losses and like how you can do better, then the plan's kind of useless at that point. So this week, very well on my Spanish. I watched a lot of Spanish TV and I did all my tutoring lessons. I also really enjoyed pickleball this week. I think I played for like 8 hours, which is pretty insane with my friend, and it kind of reminded me of how much I enjoy hanging out with my friends, especially some of my friends that have a lot going for them, and I can learn so much from them. I think it's really inspirational in that way. On the weekend, I mentioned I got to hang out with a lot of people. I went to Grad party, which was really fun. I randomly downloaded a singing app. I'm tone deaf, and I just wanted to be able to sing a little bit if I'm ever pushed into like a karaoke situation. I also practiced opening up my voice. I think being from the Midwestern, I kind of use my nasal a lot, and I don't use like my throat and chest to talk. So I really tried working on that. And then what got in the way? As I mentioned, the gym. The gym was a huge problem this week. After work, I would just come home and did not want to go to the gym. So I have to figure out a way to get myself to go to the gym. And I think that is through eating more. I think I'm just not eating enough. I had a good work week, except sometimes I felt very overwhelmed. That can happen to a lot of software engineers, especially in the age of AI. You're always like moving between tasks, and a lot of it is now just like prompting AI, which is not as stimulating for your brain. Not entering deep work when you're prompting AI, and I think that's a huge problem. Another problem was I had with washing my face because I started to run out of moisturizer, and I did not want to wash my face in the morning because then I wouldn't have any for night. I was very lazy to post content after work, so I didn't hit my goal. And finally, I just didn't track my tasks as well in my note throughout the week. And I think it's just because a lot of times I wasn't on my computer this week, so it's hard to do that. So here are the adjustments that I want to make, and I want you guys to hold me accountable for next week. So in the comments, I want you guys to leave what are your adjustments for the next week that you want. How are you going to get 1% better every single day? So one, I want to plan more. So I'm going to start using my calendar again. I stopped using my calendar because I was just not as busy. So it didn't sound necessary. But now I'm looking back on it, when you have stuff in your calendar, it really incentivizes you to hang out with your friends and to do these things that you don't want to do after work. I'm going to start eating more and taking my vitamins. I stopped taking my vitamins and I don't think I'm eating as much. So I'm hoping that will help with my fatigue. At work, I'm going to try to improve by not working on as many tasks as once. Just do one task and hone in on it. Prioritize what task I want to do at that time. I also am going to, next week, I just want to make one short form content and my weekly reflection. I'm going to install Obsidian on my phone so I can quickly check off tasks and I don't have to open up my computer. I think it's very much a hassle. And then this is a new section that I just added, and it's more because I don't have a note for next week yet. But I'm going to go over my goals I want for next week so you guys can better understand where I'm going, and so I don't have to go over it next week. So these are the goals I'm working towards next week. So I have all the same pillars: entrepreneurship, fitness, Spanish, screen time, but I added work so I can stay engaged at work the whole time, because working for 8 hours now with AI is super painful. Definitely gonna make a video on not to burn out, or just burn out in general in software engineering with AI, because I think it's a problem. And I think a lot of people are facing it right now. And then these are just my basic tasks. I want to buy moisturizer. I just want to get it over with. I'm going to start testing my schedule, working out maybe in the morning instead of after work, or doing stuff in the morning before work so I'm less tired. I'm going to record my short form content, and these are pretty much the same. So I hope that this was very informative on how to plan for a week and help organize it so you're always pushing towards your goals. And I didn't mention this, but it's also important that you have these long-term goals. These goals reflect kind of what I want to do in the long term. So short-term goals that will move the needle towards your long-term goals. Because obviously your long-term goals are very lofty, they're very big, and they're not going to happen overnight. So you have to slowly make these changes, these habits in order to do that. So I'm hoping that you guys can do the same thing, and I'll see you guys next week. Bye.